Welcome. Them again. Man, that dude look familiar. I think that's my daddy brother. I looked at him for a minute, and by that time he had kind of caught, we kind of caught eyes or whatnot, and you know, he came over and began to talk to me and stuff like that, and asked me how I was doing and whatnot, and well, I tell you what, you guys are just gonna have to tune back in. We're gonna have a commercial break at this time, and we're gonna send you guys to a video, and we'll continue on with this on the next segment. All right. All right. Welcome back. You are joining us right now on the Rejoice program. My name is Demarcus Taylor. I'm on the behalf of I Am Driven for Success, and I'm here with my father today, Ricky Gosa. Anything you want to?
Hey, we're really happy to be back and looking forward to the next segment.
Okay, guys. So just to give you a little bit for those that may just be tuning in, or even those that have been watching the first segment, we wanted to just really go in for you guys on, the past situation and the pain and the hurt that he may have been feeling, and the pain and hurt that I may have been feeling. So many times with this type of situation, what happens is, you know, we know what the child may be feeling, and how he felt, towards that father or mother, whatever your case may be. But we often forget to overlook what the father may be feeling, and that's something that the Holy Spirit had to show me. There was emotions and things that he was feeling, um, throughout that time. So, during that first segment, we want to get it out, and we're gonna pick up where we left off, and we're gonna turn this corner and get you guys through the process of how we actually begin to mend the situation. So as I said, my uncle, my uncle, his brother, Uncle Kevin, we was in a shoe store or whatnot, and he and I began to talk, and that's when he began to tell me, well, your father lives here. I said, yeah, I heard, and he was like, well, look, you really need to get in contact with him because you guys need to, see if you can, have a relationship, and he can even help you financially. You're in college now and all of this. I was like, man, I ain't got nothing to say to that fella. I just kept on, that was just my attitude. I ain't really got nothing to do with that guy, man. Like, whatever. But he was real persistent. So what happened was, I went on about my business, and I thought he was going about his business, but turns out he actually told his wife to leave him. So when his wife left him, he came back over to talk, and he was like, well, I told my wife to go ahead, so, can you give me a ride home? So I'm like, all right, man, cool. So, we get in the car, and he's still talking about you, and I ain't trying to hear none of that. And so, we pull up at the apartments or whatever, and I'm thinking, he's like, man, come on upstairs with me or whatever. So, I go upstairs with him, and open the door, and lo and behold, it's my dad is sitting there, coming to the door or whatnot. So, you know, that's when the communicating process began again. So you can give them your thoughts on
Yeah,
that
let me.
particular moment.
I remember one of the things that I remember, son. I don't know if you remember this or not. You were one of the things during that early time of communicating. You were going on a trip or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you wanted some money.
Yeah.
It was really actually a test for me with my son, I believe. I don't remember how much it was, like $700 or $800 or something like that. It was something like that that he was going on, and I know we gave him some money and everything, but I remember I could feel the anger. I could feel some of the resentment and everything like that, and what really what I was really thinking in regards to that situation was just how much you look like me in the family, but two, how much greatness you had in you. Even then, I could, if you talk to my wife now, she'll tell you the same thing. I was like, this young man got greatness in him, but he's gonna need me too. And I've always felt like that. I don't know if you know a little bit about my backstory as far as my father and mom and everything like that. I didn't connect with my dad really. I saw him during the course of the years, but I really connected with him later in life. We stayed about 30 days with him before he passed in the same place we first connected at. But I didn't realize how great of a father he really was. I wish I had been more contact, but just amazing, to get to know him and everything. So that was one of my thought patterns was this is a great person, and he's going to need everyone that support him in life, his father included, to go through the next stages of life. So when we were connecting in that moment, that's the moment I remember when you came. He was going on the trip, and we started that connection point right there, and that was a launch pad in my mind right there.
Yeah, I think it was. We was headed to San Antonio, but even the money, like it really wasn't even a big deal for me because we kind of had already compensated for everything. So for me, and I'm just being honest with you guys because you know your child may be feeling the same way. I felt like you owed that to me. I felt like you owed that to my mother. Um, by you not being there financially, I felt like that was owed to me. So a lot of times in the early times or whatever, asking for money was simply just because I felt like you owed it to me.
And as a father, you do. And then not just that portion. And I'm like my son. The money part is nothing. The love and care in here and here and that those things they're way more important than everything. So one of the things that really rang out to me, son, was just as you were going through some of the other things in life, as we started connecting and realizing that the open communication. Here's a few things that I told my son when we first started connecting. I'll never lie to you. You're a grown man now. I'm going to treat you like that. I'm not going to treat you like a child. Sarah has raised you. That little gap from 12 to 19, she's done a fantastic job doing that. And I'm going to treat you like a grown man. And from that day, I've always treated my son like a grown man. I'm going to give him advice through my experience in life. But, ultimately, these are his decisions to make. And I've always kind of treated you like that, son. So, and I think that my son has always respected that, me not, someone trying to step beyond and bring back the 10 years. But here's where you're at today, and here's where we're going to start the relationship moving forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you made. You definitely want to approach it from that matter because in the child's mind, and I'm speaking from my experience, that is what in the back of your mind. I mean, he's trying to raise me now. It is in the back of your mind. So your approach like that, when you approach me like that or whatever, it was, a good place. But even, I like to point this out before we continue to go on. You notice he said that he went through the same thing with his father, that in turn went to me. Sometimes some things we have to realize can become generational if we allow them to. So at some point, you may want to even evaluate your past situations. Maybe talk to your father and see what his situation was. Because at that point, he may be doing the best that he knows. Or you may have to come to a realization that you guys have to come together so that that stops right there. And I think that because we mend it, when the day comes that I have a child, that part won't carry over into the next generation. It stopped here. So that's definitely something, that I want to point out, but I did, definitely respect, the way that you came, and once we started communicating, it became for me, because there was, it's interesting when your father or your mother's not there, whatever, you wonder why you do certain things or why you think about certain things. So as we began to communicate, it allowed me to see you for who you were, but it also allowed me to see the you in me. It began to make sense to me that, okay, well, this is why I'm so fascinated with business. This is
Save money.
Why, this is why I like to dress, this type of attire is what I've always been more comfortable in. you know, and once I began to talk to you and saw what you did for a living and, you know, things of that nature, then, you know, I began to understand me a whole lot more by communicating with you.
You know, as I think about it, and one of the things that I think you started to see is value in men in this relationship. You know, the different things that your father can bring to the table, and also, you know, I think a child at some point along the way can question whether or not, because of the things that happen, whether or not their parent, if they're not there all the time, truly loves them. And I think during the course of us men, and I think my son had an understanding that I truly love him and want him to be successful in life and willing to provide whatever means that I can to help get you there. You know, and if that meant my son is one of the best things that I think we've got is communication. I mean, if my son needs to call me late at night or early in the morning about a situation, he can do that. And he know that we're open like that, any communication regarding anything. And I always told my son that you may not always like the answer I give you, but it's going to be the honest answer that I'm going to be giving you. And you take that and do what you want to do with it, hopefully for the good, and as you've always done that. But I think that communication and verifying that love, and like you said, verifying some of the things that were in me that you found in yourself as well. And as I was looking at the situation, I was saying, you know, this is me. You are me. And that made it just so much faster once we realized that and said, we are two people that's got a lot of things in common. And we need to share that values and grow our relationship so that we can, as you said, make it stronger for the next generation. So that's I'm just, you know, when I think about it, I'm really thankful for the fact that, son, that you are the person that you are, you know, and that you're living the life that you're living. So I'm just excited about that.
Well, I think, you know, really, you know, one of the things, and again, you know, it was just God having his hand on my life, because I remember having the thought that, you know, once we started talking, like, man, you know, if you treat him or, you know, and I still tell people this, you know, to this day this, you know, when they ask me or, you know, with this particular issue or whatever, you know, you know, God kind of gave me a perception of it. And that perception was, well, if you treat him, if you don't have, or treat him like he treated you, like he treated you or wasn't there for you, then essentially you do the same thing to him that he did to you. You just do it in a different way. You know, and when he kind of explained it to me that way, I was like, man, you know, okay, that's not the right thing to do. And I remember my grandmother, you know, coming to me one day and telling me, you know, and she was just kind of like, son, she said, you know, you can't control what nobody does. You can't control what nobody don't do. You know, and she was just like, you know, you using your daddy or whatever the case may be. She said that's wrong. You know, you weren't raised like that. You can't do that. Now, if you want to have a relationship with him, you know, do that. But if you don't, you know, that's up to you too. You know, but don't go in there with the wrong intentions. You know, and with having my own revelation and then her explaining it to me as well, you know, it really kind of put things in perspective for me, to kind of really begin to, you know, see for what it is, you know. But at that point, we kind of had started connecting, and, you know, like you said, you know, that void that once was there, now that we were talking, and I'm starting to see some things, you're starting to see some things, you know, you kind of you get to that place where you just like, okay, you know, there's a bigger picture at hand here. You know, I have a sister that's involved, you know, how he may feel or whatever, you know. Essentially, we need to just fix this situation and move on. You know, he didn't come hit me with a position of, well, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you know, any of that type stuff. So, you know, at that point, everything is kind of like at a level playing field, you know, and you really just you have an option. Either you guys can move forward, or you can continue to hold grudges and resentment and hinder the process, you know. But